Mic check 1, 2. This thing on. We working. Cool. That sounds good. Camera on. Mic is on. Everything looks good. Sounds good, hopefully. Bum, 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 bum. I'm getting all kinds of weird warnings, but I think they're fake warnings. I don't think they're real warnings. I think the connection is fine. If anybody is out there and wants to let me know if the connection seems weird and choppy for any reason, I've got some OBS is saying things are bad, but from what I can tell, things are not bad. So, hello and welcome to the Tuesday afternoon stream. My name is Zaak Kerstetter, and this stream is generally here for people to come by and ask me questions about anything related to music production with Ableton Live. So sometimes I'll just pick a topic and just start talking about it. And otherwise, anybody who's out there in the chat is welcome to toss in their ideas. If you have questions about something specific, anything related to music, let me know. But otherwise, feel free to hang out, chat, whatever. What's up? Is it Macaron? I did this before. Macaron after party. How are you doing today? I'm gonna switch some things around my desk before we really get into it, just to make sure I can see everything, do everything, turn on the push, get rid of some cables, move some things around. That should be fine. So I'm going to probably, we'll probably just start by playing around a little bit with the, what's it called? Euclidean Sequencer, which is a Max for Live device I made a video about and released last week. Just because I've been having a lot of fun with that, using that to generate ideas and play around with that a little bit. But as I mentioned before, if you have anything you want to talk about, let me know. This is pretty much your guys' time to do whatever you would like. Other things that I want to mention as far as like housekeeping and non-music stuff is I will not be here on Friday, so there will be no Friday feedback stream this week. However, since I'm not doing that stream on Friday, and I did just hit 2,000 subscribers on the channel, I want to do something a little special. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is just a stream tomorrow afternoon. I don't know what the theme of the stream will be. We could do song feedback. We could do just general hangout stuff. We could do whatever, but I'm going to do an extra bonus stream to celebrate hitting 2,000 subscribers tomorrow in the afternoon. I don't know what time, probably around the same time that I'm doing this. What's up, love? How are you doing today? So no Friday stream, but yes, Wednesday stream for today, or for this week. Wait, so I'm gonna grab the Euclidean Sequencer Pro and toss it on track here. So if you haven't watched the video on this thing, I would highly recommend it. Really, really cool sequencer. I'm gonna be using this a lot, I think, in the future. I already use it quite a bit. You just woke up. What time zone do you live in? Because that could be very normal for you, or that could be very abnormal. And we're going to toss this with, let's do a wavetable. That is terrible sounding. Let's filter this down. Do a little quick amp envelope, a little filter envelope. Maybe something like that. Maybe pitch it up an octave. Some unison on it. Play with the envelope a little bit. Okay, so you're in Chicago time. So that is very late. Were you up late partying all night, or like what? That seems Is that normal for you to be waking up that late? So the thing I'm going to do here in the sequencer is or in the Euclidean sequencer, I'm going to turn on the sequencer mode, and that way, instead of just outputting the same note over and over again, it's going to start outputting different notes. As I turn this up, just does a little arpeggiation kind of thing. And let's put this in a particular scale to F sharp minor. Oh yeah, I'm a night owl. I tend to operate a lot better at night, so I end up doing a lot of my like creative writing, and just my brain is more active at night. And in the past couple of years, it's chilled out a bit, and I've started to have a more regular sleep cycle and started to wake up in the morning, so though begrudgingly. But yeah, take care of that mental health. I think that's a really important part about being an artist, or just being a person in general, but especially if you're in the artistic world, in the creative world. I think a lot of people assume that if you're going to be an artist, your life has to just be a mess. Like you have the stereotype of like the artist who can't get their shit together. And I number one don't think that's fair, and number two think that like you can have a creative lifestyle, you can engage in that side of things, but also take care of yourself, and like make sure you get some sleep, make sure you're drinking water, make sure you're eating food, like make sure you're not partying too hard. Those things are really good things just to actually help you make better art and actually help you like really focus on doing the best you can when you are creating stuff. So yeah, that is all that is to say. Take care of yourself. It's super important to be doing stuff like that. All right, we're too high frequency now. What is FS? For sure, yeah. I never heard it. I'm old now. I'm not up on all the breathes. Let's make this a little tighter. Oh, let's put these all in the same key. I forgot to do that part. I should automatically just did it for all of them at the same time. People don't say it breathes. They should. All right, probably them's gonna be too hard for this. Some swing on these guys. Make their sound a little bit more. Not sure if this is really what I'm feeling. Maybe I want this a little faster. No, too fast. It's getting a little better. One of the issues with using this I found is that things get really busy really fast, so it ends up sounding like too much going on all the time. Maybe if I take one of these guys and speed it up. Yeah, it's so much fun. It's so easy. Like, it would be so complicated for me to come up with all these different arpeggiations all like on the fly, like 3 different arpeggiations with different rhythms and different steps in them. It's so easy. On the arpeggiator. I don't like that as much. This can absolutely send MIDI out to hardware. You can send MIDI out from anything to hardware. The way you do that is instead of using something like wavetable here, you would just, in the instruments, go to the external instrument, toss it here. This is going to take whatever MIDI is going on this track, which in this case would be come from the sequencer. You send that out to your hardware, either through your audio interface that has a MIDI cable attached to it, or if you have like some USBs in there, output out to there, and then you just receive the audio right back here. Makes it super easy. So yes, the answer to your question, any MIDI from your track you can send anywhere, whether it's hardware or anywhere else. But the external instrument is the easiest way to do that. The other way to do that would be to just on an empty MIDI track where it says MIDI 2 right here, you would send this out to your hardware, and then you could route it back in through a separate audio track. But the external instrument is nice because it's all in one place. Yeah, you'd still, if you're using something like the Scarlett, you would still send MIDI 2 and you'd send this to the Scarlett. But you do it either here or you do it with the external instrument like this guy. You would send to the Scarlett, and then you receive audio back from the Scarlett here. You have that set up. In terms of the external instrument versus the audio 2, or the MIDI 2 down here, this is easier because then you can just like start stacking all your like audio effects and everything right here directly. Whereas if you put it on another track, you're just using more tracks and it's more complicated, and you have to like record enable this track in order to like send here, or you have to either send your monitor to in, something like that. So it's a little more complicated to use like a separate track, like, you know, MIDI out and then audio from. Whereas here, it's all in one place and it's really simple. It's really easy. And a little gain control right here to control the gain coming back. So I personally think this is probably the better and more easy way to do it. But either one works. I think it's more of like a workflow thing than anything. Some people like having like, okay, this is my track where I'm doing all my MIDI and generating all my ideas, and this is a track where I'm recording all those ideas. CPU usage, I think, will be slightly more because you're using 2 tracks, and the more tracks you have, the more CPU usage it is. But honestly, you're not going to notice a whole lot of real big difference in terms of processing power. The other big difference here, there's actually probably the most important difference now that I think about it, is that in this situation, if you're using the external instrument, you cannot record the audio directly to this track because this is a MIDI track. So you'd like write all your MIDI here, but if you wanted to record that audio, you'd have to route that to a separate track anyway, and then record the audio over on the separate track. So that would be the added bonus of using the MIDI to and the audio from, is that if you're going to be recording audio all the time, then having a separate track, you have to do that anyway to record the audio, if that makes sense. So this is easier, more convenient, but if you're going to be recording a lot from your external hardware, having a separate track might be a little easier, but you probably won't notice any CPU difference really between those two options. That's a good question though. Yeah, I think one of the most important things about working with hardware, especially like sending and receiving MIDI, or sending out MIDI and receiving audio, is just getting all of your ins and outs just set up and good to go, and just like so that way you just sit down and you start playing stuff. Because if I have to like do a bunch of routing stuff before I actually play any notes, it drastically decreases the chances I will actually use that tool to make music. So I like having everything kind of plugged in, ready to go. You just turn it on and start playing notes. And so figuring out what kind of inputs and outputs work best for you, and then saving that as a template is super important. I don't know if you guys have been using the new templates feature right here. This is really, really handy for just keeping things organized. And like you can have different templates. You could have like your hardware template, and you could have your live performance template and your DJ template, or whatever you want, and toss it in here. This I think is one of this you can actually do in Live 10, but it was like a secret feature in Live 10. And now it's just like a built-in feature. Cool, yeah, I love the templates feature. The thing that people didn't realize is in Live 10, if you in your user library saved a folder and called it templates, it did the exact same thing. Like when you open up something from your templates folder, it opens up as untitled rather than the name of the template, which is massively important. Sweet. So also I just want to mention, if anybody is just joining us, if you have any questions about music production, Ableton Live, whatever, life in general, feel free to toss those in the chat. And that's kind of the whole point. I'm just kind of hanging out. I don't really have like a set plan necessarily. So you guys are more than welcome to ask about whatever it is you are interested in talking about. That's why this is the office hour streams. Yeah, this is like a secret feature because you had to make a folder, name it templates, and put it in your user library, and it functions the same way in Live 10. One of my students actually taught me that. That was an eye-opening thing. And then they just made it a feature. Sweet. So we were playing around with this sequence here. What's up, Isaac? How are you doing? Should we get a fourth sequence going in here? All right, let's do some more stuff here. Let's get a little LFO on our wavetable position here. Let's turn off the retrigger. Slow this down a little bit. So I changed the name for the stream to Office Hours Stream. I think at the very beginning of the stream it might have been called that, and I changed it like right after I started. So hopefully it's not saying it's a feedback stream anymore. You might need to refresh it. So I actually, until very recently, until basically like 8 months ago, I always used just the default live skin, specifically because I teach a bunch, and when I'm teaching, I don't want people to be confused about like what I'm showing on my screen looks different than other people's screen. And then only recently, just because I really like it, I switched to the mildly darker skin. But I don't use any custom skins or anything like that, just because I don't want people to be confused about what's going on. Okay, cool, Isaac. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. So I noticed in the old Euclidean sequencer, it starts on C1 by default. And so in the new one, so this one starts at C1, C#1. So in the new one, I noticed it starts at C3. But yeah, saving a preset for that is something that's really useful. What's up, username? So any tips I can recording my screen and internal audio on a Mac. Spent days trying to do it, and I'm totally frustrated. So what I do is I use OBS. So I'm using OBS for streaming right now, but I also use that for just screen capturing and everything. And there's a lot of different ways to get OBS or the audio from live into OBS. And it can be a little weird. The solution that I'm using right now, but I'm probably going to replace it soon, is this software right here. This is a software called Audio Hijack. I think it's like 20 bucks or something like that. And it basically automatically grabs the audio coming out of live and allows me to route it anywhere that I want. I'm using that in combination with another software called Black Hole, which is free. So it's sending to Black Hole, which is like the old Soundflower, if you ever used Soundflower back in the day. And then inside of OBS, I'm receiving from Black Hole. And then it's also sending it out to my audio interface, and that's going to my headphones. So that's my current solution. However, I just learned recently, since I have the Universal Audio Apollo Twin, you can do some stuff with queuing, and I'm going to drop this soon and just use my audio interface to do all of it. But Black Hole, I used to use just Black Hole by itself, and that worked fine for a while, and then it started bugging out and being weird. And so I added in Audio Hijack, and now the two of them work together, and that works really well. So basically, audio goes out of live, goes to Black Hole, and then that goes directly into OBS on one of the inputs of OBS, and then also goes to my headphones. So that was my solution. It's okay, it works, but I'm going to try out some different methods for it. Soundflower was free, at least. I mean, traditionally Soundflower was free, and then they stopped developing it. And then somebody kind of picked up the mantle and made Black Hole, and Black Hole basically works exactly like Soundflower did, but it's just a new name. Yeah, it's kind of a pain until you get all your inputs and outputs. Well, I've heard good things about the RME interfaces. Everybody I know who has one loves one, so I don't need a new audio interface, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on the RME stuff. Yeah, I think Audio Hijack is like 20 bucks or something like that, and it's useful. It's helpful. There's another one of these softwares that I think is made by the same company, Rogue Amoeba, called Loopback. Pull this up real quick. So they make Audio Hijack, and then Loopback is the other one that people have been telling me is cool, and you can do fun stuff with it for routing stuff from one place to another. So I'd also like to try this out because I know that people have been using that. Maybe I'll test it out later this week and let you guys know how it goes. But yeah, I mean, the the amount of system testing and different methodologies I tried for both setting up my video setup for videos for the channel and as well as like streaming and all that stuff. It's just a nightmare. And then slowly over time, I've like simplified my setup so it gets easier and easier. Yeah, I mean, if you have Black Hole, you can just go audio directly out here to Black Hole from live to Black Hole. However, that means you can't hear it in your headphones. So another option you could try out just to see if it works, like this used to work for me and used to work great, is in your audio MIDI setup. You can create a multi-output device and then send the multi-output device to your audio interface so you can hear it in your headphones or your speakers or whatever, and then also send it to Black Hole. So this is what I used to use before Audio Hijacked, and this worked great for many months, and it worked totally fine. And then one day it just stopped working. So that's when I started using Audio Hijack. Yeah, try them again. I don't know how new your computer is or which operating system you're using, but if you're using an older operating system, Black Hole and the multi-output device should work fine, and those are both free. And then I found out, I think it's because I've got one of the new M1 MacBooks, and I think that might be why it didn't like it as much. Interesting. I'll have to try the restream. Yeah, if you got a 2018 MacBook Pro, grab Black Hole, set up a multi-output device. In case you're not sure how to do it, just go to your audio MIDI setup, and then let me go ahead and just get rid of this guy. Literally just hit the plus button down here and hit create multi-output device. And then you can choose which places you want to send to. And so in this case, I'd select Black Hole and my interface. And then in live, you would just send out to a multi-output device. Like I said, this worked great for me for a long time, and it was easy and it was free. And then only fairly recently, in the last couple of months, it stopped working for me for some reason. Or it would work some of the time and not other times, and I just got frustrated with it. But I was just told the other day that the universal audio, this console, you can route things through here and then send it to different places. So this is my next thing that I'm going to try out for routing things around. Sweet, love. Well, I'll see you later. Thanks for popping by. Yeah, you can watch all the streams after I'm done are up on the channel, so you can go back and watch that again if you want to. It's the kind of thing that people ask me about enough that I might end up just making a video to toss on the channel. Because there's so many weird things about just getting audio from one software to another. You'd think they'd streamline all that stuff and make it real easy. But that is a great question. Yeah, no problem. What kind of video you're making? Just like making a video of your session or something like that? All right. Once again, I would like to point out, because it looks like there's some new people joining us, if you have any questions about anything related to audio or music or anything, feel free to toss them in the chat. That's what this whole stream's about. All right, so I was working on this little arpeggiated guy using my Euclidean sequencer. Let's try out some different. Kind of like that. Let's play with this a little bit. There we go. That's a little more what I was looking for. Let's just smother this thing in reverb. And let's do just the algorithm. I already like that. Yeah, that kind of stuff is great for content for social media and things like that. People love to see like underneath the hood of what people are working on a little bit. I think this is the winner here. A little less mod. This delay is super weird here, the pre-delay. So not quite the vibe I was going for, the Baba O'Reilly vibe, but I'll take it. It does sound, yeah, it does. I can hear it now a little bit. I'm getting like a Philip Glass kind of thing going on. Whatever, that's kind of cool. It's kind of pretty. I think what else I could do in here that'd be fun. I'm kind of digging that for right now. A little ping pong on there. All right, let's get this one to be something kind of different. Let's do like some performance. What's up, Steve? How are you doing? So I unfortunately do not know a lot specifically about syncing the RC505 with Live, but you found an editor on GitHub which pretty well for importing loops into the boss. That sounds great. I think it's really cool, especially with like some of the like older pieces of gear like that you can like integrate the two. So you like make a loop in Live, and then you just export it through this software, and then you can just import it into the 505. Does that sound accurate to what's going on? Sounds cool though. So yeah, so when it comes down to live performance and like being on stage, I know there's a lot of people that are like very anti having a laptop on stage because they want to have like they don't want the screen to be there. Like for me too as well, like the screen creates a barrier between yourself and the audience that I don't particularly like. But sometimes it just makes life easier because you can do everything directly on the computer. There's just so much you can do between like a MIDI controller and a laptop and a couple pieces of hardware on stage that just like you can use Live as the brain to interact between all your hardware and all your gear, which I think is really useful. So if you're recording a live performance, so if you're recording a live performance with vocals, would you add any Ableton stock plugins for EQ compressor, or is it better to stick with dry vox plus wet sound, i.e. reverb delay? So if you're talking about like, okay, you get on stage, you're running your microphone through Live, would I put on EQ and compressor in addition to reverb delay? Very high likelihood, yes. I definitely would. I wouldn't go nuts with the EQ and the compressor. I would put probably just enough in there, just enough EQ to get rid of any like unwanted, any like super low frequencies or things like that. And I would put the compressor so that it's just barely being hit. I wouldn't do like a lot of compression there, but I think that'll be really helpful. And then I would use that in combination with reverb and delay for sure. And then I would absolutely 100% every single time, if you are performing on stage, put a limiter on the master. Like no matter what my setup is, no matter if I'm DJing, if I am doing like an improvisational set, if I am doing like an all original set, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm on stage and there's people that are live, put a limiter on your master. I don't put a limiter on the master when I am producing. I don't recommend doing that necessarily, but just in case, because you never know, you might like drop the mic, you'll be having the microphone in your hand and you like accidentally, you trip and fall and you drop the microphone and it hits the floor. You don't want that just like going raw through the speakers. Putting a limiter on there is definitely a good idea for situations like that, because you never know. Or like say your vocalist, belts a really loud note and it goes over 0 dB. So When I'm building a live performance setup or a live performance template, I always just assume that everything is going to go wrong, that like shit is just going to hit the fan. And what can I do beforehand just to prevent that from happening? And so putting a limiter on the master, great idea just in case, because you never know what will happen. You get a weird feedback loop. You know, your vocalist walks in front of the speaker and you get a crazy feedback loop. Having the limiter there is super, super useful. I will often, sometimes, but not always, put limiters on individual tracks, especially if I have like a mic live. Not because I want it to actually do any limiting. I'll just sit it here with like a really high ceiling like this and then just leave it there. But yeah, live performance, always just assume things are going to go wrong, and putting a limiter on the master, like you're probably not even going to use it 99% of the time. Doesn't even matter, but it's there just in case. So yeah, I would definitely do all of those things. Put a little EQ on there, put a little compressor on there, in addition to any of the other effects. And then limiters. The nice thing about the live limiter is that it's really transparent. If you don't hit your ceiling, you don't hear that at all. So in a situation where you're not sure and you just want to be safe, put a limiter on there, and that's a great idea. But yeah, so see if you got 10 minutes of a bunch of like percussion stuff, and then save them as WAV files, and then run with them live. But you would prefer to export them and put them in the 505, and that way you don't need to bring the computer. I think it seems like a good idea. Like I said, I think that there are pros and cons to having a laptop on stage. I think, like I said, it creates a barrier between your audience. When you're looking at the screen, it's not as performative as if you're hitting buttons or hitting a piece of hardware. And then there's also just the risk of like bringing a laptop to a bar or nightclub or venue or wherever you're performing, where you can drop it. There's drinks around. It's you have to set it up. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with a laptop as well. So I understand the hesitancy to bring a laptop, and I used to only perform 100% with hardware, and then I switched to the computer after a while, and then now I usually bring the computer just because I can do a lot of things with it. But to me, when I am performing on stage with a computer, as much as possible, I had to try to have it like off to the side, so that there's nothing in between me and the audience when I'm performing besides like my MIDI controllers or something like that, or an instrument. Because I think as an audience member, it's not as interesting just to watch somebody on a computer, like looking at a screen, because you have no idea what they're doing. They could be checking their email for all you know. So I think that there's a lot of associations people have with laptops that can be avoided. So any workflow tips for maximizing loudness of drum samples after sampling from the original track and exporting and sending to Spdx? So one thing the easiest thing you can do is normalize it. And the way you normalize it is, let me find like a drum sample. So if we have something like this, we got a kick drum here, and we got a little bit of headroom with this kick drum, which is great. Having samples with headroom is fantastic. However, if you want to like maximize loudness / get all of your kick drums to be the same volume, if you have like multiple samples of kick drums or multiple samples of like different percussive loops, and you want them all, you can normalize it. And the easy way to do that is to crop it. So I sliced it here, but you don't necessarily need to. If you right click on this, and if you hit, I think it's consolidate. Did that do it? No. Is it actually just crop sample? That also did not work. What am I missing here? Maybe that did it a little bit. Yeah, you can see the waveform changed it a little bit. It's a little weird because let me try it with a different sample that has like a really clear transient. Those are already really loud. Do this. Nope. One of these commands normalizes your sample, and I'm not sure why it's not working like this. Maybe they changed it. Let me try one thing real quick. And make sure I'm giving you accurate information and not making a mistake here. No, those are the same volume. That one is normalized. Maybe it's just the waveforms of what I'm dealing with are kind of weird. Let's try this with a very quiet sample. All right, let's try this. This is pretty quiet. I crop this. There we go. It is cropping. It's just maybe that sample had a weird waveform and it was kind of strange. So if you take a sample and you just right click on it and you hit crop clip, it will create a new sample for you. It'll also crop it wherever you have it sliced. So if you like select this area and you crop it there, but it also normalizes it. So it basically, it takes whatever your loudest volume is and tries to move that close to 0 dB. So if I right click on this and I hit crop clip, we can see the waveform here changes from here to there. In fact, let's do this one more time. I'll select this, duplicate it, we'll crop this one. So you can see the difference between the waveforms here. I don't know why they're super dark color. Here's the uncropped version, here's the crop version. And that's a good way for, yeah, this is basically kind of the same thing as like slicing it and then adjusting the gain for it, but this automatically does it for you. So that's what I recommend doing. And it looks like it's not bumping it all the way to 0 dB, but it's definitely making it louder than it was before. It's also strange because the waveform down here looks exactly the same, but here you can clearly see the waveform's louder. So it doesn't look like it's bumping it up all the way to 0 dB, but it's definitely making it louder. So if you want to kind of like, if you don't want to mess up your transient or the transient is already really loud, just run it through a compressor and then resample it. Probably be the easiest way to do that. I mean, I think just to kind of show you what you do is, toss this through a compressor. Let's get rid of this one. So you want to do something like this. Let's just loop this. So we get a little bit of compression there. Bump it up like that. And then, yeah, you can use the limiter if you want. Like if you really wanted to push it, if you're like, I want to like beef this thing up, turn on the soft clip and then crank up the makeup gain. And then you just freeze and flatten this track. And so you could do this for like multiple clips at the same time. So you don't need to do like each one individually, provided they have similar volume levels to start with. But you just freeze it and then flatten it, and then boom, there's your way over compressed version of it. So yeah, if you were worried about something like that, in terms of kind of maximizing your volume for different clips. And then the freeze and flatten is going to be the fastest way to do it. And that just gives you the audio version. Does that make sense? Hopefully. I think normally, unless you're like really trying to push it, just doing the crop clip version works really well because it's one button and gets you a nice kind of consistent volume across multiple clips or multiple samples. Sweet. Well, I do want to let people know if you are watching and you have any questions about music production with Ableton Live or just anything in general, you are more than welcome to toss those questions in the chat. That's what we are here for today. I also do want to mention, if you are somebody who watches the stream regularly, I am not going to have a stream on Friday because I will be out of town. But I am going to do a bonus stream tomorrow. So Wednesday, at some point, probably around the same time that I'm doing this now, I'll be back and we'll probably do another Hangout stream like this. Maybe do some track deconstruction or something like that. I'm open to ideas, but we just hit 2,000 subscribers on the channel, so I wanted to celebrate and do a little bonus stream just for you guys. Yeah, if you're worried about the output of the SPD, I wouldn't go too hard on the compressor because it'll end up kind of ruining some of your dynamics. But just I'd probably go for something. Oops, let's solo this. A little more like that, so it's not quite so over the top. And then when you freeze it and flatten it, it's like it's a little beefier, but it's not like way over compressed. Oh, interesting. I just noticed this, and I'm not sure why that's happening. But when we froze this is a mono clip, and then when we flattened it, there's a stereo clip. Interesting. I've never noticed that behavior happen before. Cool. Well, yeah, those are all great questions. Are you using the SPD for live performance? Is that kind of the idea? Like running a bunch of loops on the SPD and then we're kind of performing on top of it? I know a lot of people who get like really into the SPD as like a just production and performance tool. So Isaac is asking if I have any studio headphone recommendations. So I am using the AKG K712s. I've had these for probably 8 or 9 years, maybe, and they work great. I love them. They're a little bit pricey. I got them on sale for like 50% off when I did buy them a long time ago. But they're great. I love them. I like I said, I've been using for a long time, and I haven't really been in the market for new headphones, in quite a while. I also know, and I've through talking with other people that own other less expensive AKG headphones, that some of their cheaper options are not quite as good. So I can't necessarily speak for any of the other ones besides the K712s. So I love these guys; they're great. But like I said, I haven't used a lot of other ones, especially recently. Before these, I had a pair of Sonys that I actually still have right here. But I'm not super up to date on what the headphone market is like. I know that there's a lot of new cool companies out there that are making stuff. I'm trying to think like what other people I know are using. Yeah, I'll have to look into it and kind of see and ask some friends what they've been using and what they like. But I haven't really been in the market for headphones in a long time. The Bearer stuff I think is pretty solid. Also depends a lot on your price range. I think there's really kind of like 3 major price ranges for production headphones. There's the like $100 to $200 range, where I think there's a lot of decent stuff. And then I think there's kind of like a $300 to $500 range, and then there's like anything like more expensive than that. And so I think it depends a lot on your budget too, like which kind of like tier of headphone you're looking for. Okay, nice. So currently your band is running live for the backing tracks and drums, where you're going to swap over the SPD instead. So what's my opinion on using the Waves NX headphone tracker like VSTs? So are you talking about like all the kind of plugins and technology that are kind of designed to counterbalance the EQ curve of your headphones, like the SonarWorks kind of thing? Like these guys. This kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about? I haven't tried ones where they follow your head movement, but I've tried SonarWorks stuff before, and it's cool. I like it. It definitely makes a difference. I kind of stopped using it a little bit. I need to start using it again more, specifically because it takes over your audio drivers, and I'm doing a lot of complicated inputs and outputs a lot now, especially with doing things like streaming and making videos and all the different, like, I've got a setup for my hardware and I've got like different audio interfaces I use. So like, I think it's been kind of a pain because it gets in the way sometimes when I'm doing like different setups and changing things up all the time. And so that kind of bothers me. But in terms of like what it did to the sound, 100% noticeable and really cool. Number one, just as a learning experience, just to kind of like turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, just to kind of see how the headphones are changing the sound of the music that I'm hearing. And I also think, you know, if I were to, I haven't done a lot of mixing recently in the past couple months, but if I were to be mixing a bunch of tracks, I would definitely start using, you know, reference more. And you can do cool things like get the little, where's the little microphone guy? There's a little microphone thing that you can buy that I actually have, but I haven't used yet in this room, that senses the kind of like acoustics of your room and will counteract kind of EQ to cancel out your room, which is really, really cool. So I got this and I've used it for a bit and I enjoyed using it, but right now, just because of my setups, it's been not been used as much. But I also got it for free, so I don't know how much they're charging for it. That's actually pretty reasonable. 100 euros just for the software. That's probably worth it. If you, I think it's worth it if you are serious about mixing and mastering and that kind of thing, especially if you live in an apartment where you are worried about neighbors and things like that. Like you can play music a little bit, but if you're like working late at night, you got to use your headphones and things like that. I'd totally recommend it. If you're somebody who lives out in the woods and you can just bump music all day and don't have to worry about neighbors, then yeah, maybe get the speaker version just to kind of counteract your room a little bit. But I think it's a cool tool to have around. But just for everyday kind of making music, it can get in the way sometimes. Or if I'm like switching from making music to like watching Netflix, it can be kind of a pain because it gets in the way. Yeah, I use headphones quite a bit when I am producing music, but when I'm mixing and mastering, I need my speakers, and I also have neighbors that I do not want to piss off all the time. So I end up producing a lot with headphones or doing stuff like this with headphones. All right, so you're using Live to run Vox guitars. and SPD drums for backing tracks. Okay, nice. That seems cool. Welcome back, love. Yeah, I think the SPD is cool. It's super compact. It's like there's like definitely like a coolness factor to SPD, but I just think having the screen and the visual feedback of live is just so useful for doing more complicated things. I'm sure you've seen them around before. They're like the little drum machine dudes. They're the little drum pad guys. So I have a cheaper, shittier version of these that Alesis made a long time ago, and it's only MIDI. So it just sends and receives MIDI. So I use that for playing things in live. The nice thing about the SPD is it has like basically a sampler built into it, so you can load up drums inside of it, and you don't need MIDI to control it. Super fun though. What's up, Van? Welcome. Thank you. I already mentioned it a few times today, but I'm going to be doing a little bonus stream tomorrow afternoon, probably around the same time, to celebrate 2,000 subscribers on the channel. But it is much appreciated. Thanks for everybody for all of their support. Yeah, the SPD is great because you don't need to get like an entire MIDI drum set because that shit gets so expensive very fast. But this is super fun because you can have this just sitting next to your regular drum set, so you can be playing your regular drum set, and then when you need to hit like some electronic music hits or samples, you can like play it right there, and then you go back to it. But you definitely lose something from the like realness of playing a drum set for sure. Yeah, you'll see these guys in a lot of setups, especially like I said, a lot of bands that try to like blend the band kind of setup and the electronic music setup together. They'll be playing a regular drum set, yeah, and then they'll use this to like trigger samples or trigger backing tracks or whatever. And that way they can kind of like play their normal drum set, and when you're seeing them play live, it feels like they're playing real drums because they are. But occasionally, if they need like a big 808 hit or a big crazy weird sound, they can just trigger it on the fly. But it's definitely way easier to transport than an entire drum set. Yeah, there's some like really cool, interesting MIDI drum solutions out there that people are coming up with that are super cool. What's the name of the company that makes? They have these little sensors that it turns any surface into a MIDI drum. Oh man, it's gonna drive me nuts. What are those called? Have you guys seen this before? It's like a little sensor, and you can like put it on a table, and then you can play the table like it's a MIDI controller, or you can put it on an actual drum set. That's actually probably what you should look into, if I can remember the name of these sensors. I'm just gonna check it out real quick. Oh my god, it's gonna drive me nuts if I can't figure out the name of these things. Yeah, there's one company in particular that was doing some really cool stuff with it, but I have not followed up on like what that company is. Yeah, you could use a contact mic and then translate that into Midi and that would work, but there's one, I don't think it's the Sensei, even though those are cool. There's one specifically for drums. Yeah, the Sensei Morph or the Sense Morph is super cool, but it's not the one I'm thinking of. The guy, what's the name of the drummer for Sunlux? Ian. Sunhouse. Boom, found it. All right, this is what I was thinking about. I remember checking these out years ago. So it comes with the really cool software, which is cool. So you can put this on a drum set and then you can play the actual drum set, but then it also sends a MIDI signal out to this like really amazing software that you can customize and control and do lots of different stuff. And I have not seen it in person, but I've seen videos of people using it, and it's got some really cool potential. I think they're a little expensive. I don't remember what they cost, but if you if you got a drummer who wants to play a drum set, but you also want them to play electronic music, this apparently can do some really cool things and is probably worth looking into. I have a friend who's very into percussion and that kind of thing, and he really likes them. How much are these? Yeah, they are very expensive. One sensor and the software is $550. Two sensors and the software is $800. Three sensors is $1,000. Hold on one second. My dog is scratching at the door. I think there's probably like raining outside. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's gonna be okay. All right. Yeah, the SenseMorph is cool. I think SenseMorphs are a little pricey, I think, for what you get from them. Or the Sensei Morphs, for those of you guys who have not seen them before. They're these guys. It's basically like a little surface, and then you can put different things on top of it, and you can play them, and they're really cool, really customizable, but also a little bit pricey. There's so many cool, interesting, weird options for performance and MIDI and things like that, but they're all so expensive. But I support cool companies making weird stuff like this. I think these also send MPE, so yeah, they do. So if you are into getting an MPE controller, I think this is the other really good option besides the Rolly stuff. I would not hold your breath on a push 3. I could be wrong about that, but I think that might be a ways out. It'd be really cool. What I really want is another controller that syncs really nicely with the push 3 that has a bunch of knobs and faders on it. That's what I want, essentially. I want something like the old Behringer. What was it called? The PCB or something like that. This guy. I want basically this, but made by Ableton that integrates with Live that also has faders on it. That's what I want. Or basically a better version of the Novation launch control. And that way I can have push that has my buttons and it's got a couple of knobs and a bunch of features built into it. And then it like syncs together with another controller that's kind of like this, that gives me maximum control over like macros and everything that I want. So that would be my dream of another piece of hardware that Live comes out, or that Ableton comes out with. I don't know if that's what we're going to get. I doubt it, but that was kind of my thing. Oh man, catching up on chat. But yeah, there could be a push 3 and down the pipeline down the road. I know that they've had job listings that kind of confirm that they're looking for hardware developers. We'll see what that ends up looking like. The one thing that I do know about Ableton is that their development cycle, they take their time with. They're not in a hurry to do anything. So I wouldn't expect a push 3 coming out in the next 12 months, but who knows? Could be cool. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to see MIDI 2.0 integration. Maybe. I mean, I think the jump to MPE was a big deal for them, and it indicates that they're at least open to progressing MIDI protocols and integrating that stuff with Live. You know, maybe Live 12 or like 11.5 or something like that. We'll see MIDI 2.0 integration, but who knows? I know a lot of people are hesitant to pick up MIDI 2.0 just because it's a lot of work and it might not catch on. Welcome the internet. It is, you can totally ask whatever question you want, short or long, in terms of how in depth we're going to get. I am going to try to catch up with chat though. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Behringer is just going to recycle everything. Like this would also be kind of cool, but in push format. The BCF. Yeah, I love the MIDI Fighter Twister. This is my second favorite controller after the push. Like between this and the push, it's got everything I need. So I use this especially a lot for live performance. But I don't have a good controller with faders. And that's what I want in life. I want something with faders and knobs all together in one place that also integrates with live really well. Yeah, those are all great controllers. Like I said, there's lots of cool options out there these days. But there's not like a good MIDI style mixer. Like the Livid DS1, they discontinued because Livid is not, I don't think they exist as a company anymore. But this is like my, I'm very sad that I never got one of these controllers. They look really cool, tons of knobs, faders, great looking controller. If anybody has the DS1 that they don't want, I will totally buy it off of you. Because this way you can, like, if you're on stage, you can do like dub mixing with this kind of thing all inside of Live, which I would absolutely love. Sweet. Well, once again, just to remind everybody, if you are enjoying the stream and you're like, what's going on? Number one, welcome. Thanks for being here. Number two, feel free to hit the like button or any of those other buttons in YouTube. That's super helpful for me. I appreciate all you guys showing up today. And also, just a reminder, no Friday stream. And yes, stream on tomorrow. Special Wednesday stream. And if you have any questions, feel free to toss them in the chat about anything related to music production with Ableton Live. Let me also ask you guys, how's the connection been? Is the audio and video been okay? Does it seem all right? Because OBS is telling me I have tons of drop frames, and but I think everything is actually working okay. All right, so the internet wants me to talk about micro-tuning capabilities. I've seen software like Logic Pro that have integrated their preferences, but with Live it seems like a relatively occult topic. So by micro-tuning, you're talking about like tuning to like a different frequency or something like that. So you could like tune to a different hertz, like 432, for example. You can't do that with any of the instruments in Live, barring using a Max for Live device. I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm 98% sure there are Max for Live devices specifically designed for microtuning. Let me just see if I can pull any up. Yeah, so if you go to maxforlive.com, you can just pull up Max for Live devices that will automatically do that for you, which is really cool. Some of these are kind of ugly, but they'll probably get the job done. That seems to be the way to do it. The other thing you can do is if you are using the tuner, this doesn't actually micro tune for you, but you can actually change the mic or the frequency that you're using as your reference for your tuner here to be whatever you want. So if you wanted to tune like your guitar to 432, you could set your reference here, and then when you play notes, it'll tell you where you are. So those are your only real kind of options. You got to either use Max for Live or use a third-party plugin that does that kind of thing. And then if you want to, if you're using an actual instrument, you could tune to a specific frequency using the tuner. But other than that, as far as I know, there's not a whole lot of ways to do that kind of thing. Yeah, it's going to be using Max for Live devices is the way to do it, just by something like this. There's different, so you can like pick which frequencies are being used. That's going to be the only way to do it. Yeah, something like that. If you want, there are some like interesting, weird built-in scales, but they're still going to be using equal tone temperament. Yeah, you could do that. Vanna's got a good point. You could build a sampler instrument that has different notes that are already tuned the way you want, and then you just play that. That seems like a lot of work, though. Yeah, some of the Max for Live devices are very user-friendly, and some of them are not. So I can't speak to any of these. Some of these just look kind of ugly, which to me indicates that they're not super user-friendly. But I have personally not tried to do any tuning like that. Let's try it. I'm going to go and download this. And see what we can do with it. And make sure I didn't miss anything else. So real quick, let me just get to Rasta's question. So why does my Launch Key 489 Mark III only record in session view? I'm not sure why that would be happening to you. It might depend a little bit on where you're at and other things that are going on. The main thing you probably just want to watch out for is like the record button on the launch key that you're using, whether it hits record here on a clip slot or it's record button here. This is the arrangement record button. So when this is on, if you hit record, it's going to record over in the arrangement view. So it's most likely something like that. Like the launch key is not turning this on, it's clicking record over here, or it's hitting the record button over here. So I'm not sure what your situation is, but just make sure this button is turned on, and that'll allow you to record directly to the arrangement view, as opposed to hitting record here. All right, let's test out this Max for Live device, see if we can figure it out. Yeah, just so you guys know, I have not used this Max for Live device before, and microtuning is not necessarily my area of expertise. It's interesting that it's a Midi effect. Okay, so let's try this on like a piano or something like that, so we can actually hear it a little better. Okay, that's actually interesting. So it looks to me like there's these little knobs right here, or the little black line here and the white line here allows you to pitch these notes up and down. So if I want this note here to be up by however many far that is, does it reset it? Okay, cool. So these buttons reset it, and then you have to adjust these. Wherever you want, and just use the tuner to kind of figure out exactly where you want this to be. And if you don't like it, you hit the reset button here. This probably resets all of them. And then you can save it as a preset in here. It looks like this probably goes back and forth between different presets. I'm not sure what the record button does here. Or those just indicate. I don't know why you can click on these, but these just indicate whatever note you're just going through. So I guess this would kind of work theoretically to kind of get the job done. But you have to go through, figure out how much you want to pitch each thing up and down, and then save it as a preset over here, and then you're good to go. And then I think you just have to use it in combination with the tuner to figure out exactly how much sense, because it doesn't actually display it here, like you mentioned. So not a perfectly easy solution, but I think it works. I think it gets the job done. So you read you had to set the pitch bend of the MIDI instrument to 1. Oh, okay. So what they probably mean by that is if you open up your instrument, so in this case, this is probably going to be a rack full of a bunch of these. Yeah, this is a bunch of them. If you're using something like simpler, where is the pitch bend range? Velocity volume, random pitch. There's no pitch bend range in here. Let's use a different thing. Let's use something like collision. What's up, DJ Emo? So in something like collision, so in most devices, you can adjust the range of how far your pitch bend goes either direction. So here, we can do it here. So we set the range to 1 semitone. I'm assuming is what they mean by setting that to 1. So that way, as we move this up and down, it's kind of doing it already over there, but that doesn't work at all over here. Interesting. Collision does not respond to the microtuner, but the sampler we just used did. And I think Wavetable did too. Nope, that didn't work there. Let's go to the pitch bend range of 1. All right, we might have broken it. It worked fine with the piano though. So I'm not sure why that's happening. Let's try this again. Okay, so this works great with the grand piano preset, but it seems like it's not working with some of the other devices. So I don't know if that's like a per device thing. Let's see what's going in here for pitch bend stuff. Let's convert to sampler. Pitch bend is set to a range of 2. But on collision, it doesn't respond at all. Let's set this to 2. Yeah. Very strange. So it looks like this only works with some devices or some instruments. Yeah, I could look into it and see if there are other Max for Live devices that are similar to this that work a little better. I kind of understand what's going on here. This is just sending out pitch bend information for each note individually, which is pretty cool. And theoretically, it should work on anything that has pitch bend capabilities. I just like the push 3. I would not hold your breath on micro tuning natively in there. I personally think it'd be super cool. I think it'd be I love options like that where you can start playing scales outside of Western scales and things like that. I'm not sure if that's a high priority for the programmers at Live, but I'll look into it a little bit and let you know if you come back for another stream to see if I can find some like good solutions that work 100% of the time. And that's just the kind of the nature of especially devices off of maxforlive.com, where sometimes they work great, sometimes they work some of the time, and sometimes they don't work at all. Okay, so in Live 11 here, it says it's currently working with sampler, wavetable, and compatible VSTs. So it's not working on all devices, although we just tried it with wavetable, and it didn't work. Not working at all right now. So that's what you get with Max for Live devices sometimes. But this is a fantastic question. I think this is a cool thing to do in terms of like playing around with tuning of devices. Yeah, it's a tricky thing to do because each note has to go up by like a specific number of cents to make it still work. Yeah, no worries. I will definitely check out some of these other ones down here because I've had people ask me about this stuff before, and I'm like, I don't do a lot of micro tuning here or in Live, so that just spreads notes. This is specifically for the Linstrument or MPE. Those look super complicated. Yeah, and then if you want to use pitch bend on top of it, it's really going to ruin your life. What's up, Brian? So thanks to me, I'm able to record a 4-bar loop to a clip, triggering with Midi notes. But how can I loop it just the last 2 bars? So you're trying to record 4 bars, but only loop 2 bars automatically? Is that the question? With one button? And think about this. So that's going to be a tricky one without using your mouse. I'm assuming this is without using the mouse. Just have it automatically. You hit play, it records. What would be the point of not just recording a 2-bar loop? So just to kind of explain what Brian's talking about, because we talked about this in a different stream, is if you, for example, wanted to hit one button and record a 4-bar loop and just have it loop 4 bars, you can do that using something called the IAC driver. So we can send MIDI out to the IAC driver. I made a video about this in the channel as well that you can check out, where we can basically program live to respond to specific MIDI notes. So we could have MIDI note C-2. I'm gonna mute this channel. Map to the record button here. And then this MIDI note here, over here. So now what we can do is exit out of our MIDI map mode. Well, yeah, but you could just not record the first 2 bars. So you could be playing for, however many bars you want. You play for 8 bars and then just record the last 2 bars and then just loop those. If that makes sense. But anyway, to continue on my example here, so basically this MIDI note would record enable. Let's turn off loop, send the end down here. Make our grid bigger. So send a MIDI note to record enable, start recording here, and then we'll record for 2 bars and then loop it. So basically what I can do is I can hit one button. It's going to record here. It's going to record for 2 bars, and then it's going to loop. So I believe Brian's question is, how do you do this but only loop just half of it, for example? I think to me the solution would be you do something like this. Like this, for example. So you hit record here, or you hit the record enable button here. You jam out from here to here. Let's go keep going over. You jam out for these 4 bars. It starts recording right here. And then it ends recording right here. This would be probably my solution to do something like this. So let's try this out real quick. So you hit the button. You start playing right now. You're jamming out. You're jamming out. You're jamming out. Yeah, this is a very confusing, weird situation. You're jamming out. Now it starts recording. And then it loops it. And then you're good to go. That would be my solution. That's my kind of like low-tech solution, is you just, in your MIDI clip for recording, you just give yourself extra room to do your thing. So in your example, it would look like this, where you hit the record button here, you get 2 bars to jam out, and then 2 bars of a loop. Does that make sense, Brian? Hold on. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. Yeah, I agree with you, the internet, about having a software program that has no limits and just being able to do whatever you want whenever you want. But I also know that Ableton is, despite the fact of how popular they are, it's a pretty small company, and they have a really rigorous design philosophy, and so don't have infinite resources to develop every single feature in the world, and so sometimes they're just limited in terms of how much programming they want and like what are the higher priorities in terms of features people want. Things like comping, for example, that take a lot of work to kind of program into the software. Yeah, so I mean, this is basically the same kind of setup we talked about last time, Brian, where like this is your record enable button. So this will allow you to send audio to this track, and then this triggers the recording that starts right here. You record from here to here, and then this triggers the loop to loop it. And that'll give you the time, kind of like you still have like a 1 bar count in, and then 2 bars of playing, and then 2 bars of recording. And then if you want to MIDI map to clear a loop, I mean, you could either use the looper device, or you could just MIDI map the stop button on this track that you're recording to, and that'll stop it. It'll basically clear it. So he found a cool visual synth called VS and wondering the best way to send audio from Ableton Live. Any thoughts? Is it a separate software or is it a plugin? Let me look it up real quick. It looks like a separate software. That looks cool. This is what he's talking about in case you guys are curious. I learned about so many cool things from you guys. It seems to only take external inputs like line 1, 2, and 3, 4. Interesting. Most likely, you might have to route your audio through your audio interface if it only takes external inputs like that. Most likely, it probably takes inputs from your computer. You might need to use another software, something like Black Hole, for example. We talked about Black Hole earlier in the stream, since we're talking about routing audio. This guy right here. This is a cool free software that allows you to send audio from one software to another. And you could basically set up the output of Live to go to Black Hole, and then the input of your video synthesizer to receive the audio from Black Hole. That's basically what I'm doing right now, getting the audio from Live into OBS for streaming, as I'm using Black Hole to do that in combination with Audio Hijack. Does that make sense? Yeah, if it has a plugin, then that's probably the easy way to do it. Let me just check here. Looks super cool. Video synthesizers are dope. So it's got a mobile version and a desktop version. Up to 5 computers per license. You could share this with 5 computers. You guys, chat, you guys could all go in on this, buy it, and then share it with 5 people. It doesn't look like there's a plugin version, though. Well, here they have it open with live, so I'm assuming that there's a way. You can see live in the background there. So I'm assuming there's a way to get audio directly from live in here. After stream, I will download this, and we'll try it. We'll try it next stream tomorrow, and see what we can do. Although I worry about doing video stuff and streaming at the same time. But you can send it MIDI, or you can. It's got polyphonic visual voices. This looks dope. Yeah, it also has a plugin. This is going to be the easiest solution. No need to use fancy tools like Black Hole or anything like that. It's got, yeah, it responds to audio and MIDI in plugin format. Yeah, this is what we're doing tomorrow on stream. We're maybe doing some video synthesis. Although video synthesis can be pretty rough on your computer's processing power, so doing like a really complicated live set with also doing video synthesis at the same time seems like a lot. But this is a good tip. Yeah, I did this on stream a while ago, but I got a hardware video synthesizer. This is the Sleepy Circuits Hypno, and one of the reasons I got this is specifically because my computer, especially my laptop, can't handle video synthesis and audio stuff at the same time. But this is hardware, so it literally just, I can connect to this and then run an HDMI out of this, and that way I don't need to wear my computer down. But this is a super fun synthesizer. It's a video synthesizer. I haven't got to use this at a show yet. I'm really hoping someday in the future I'll have the opportunity to bust this out and be doing video and music at the same time. But yeah, I'm saving that tab, and we're gonna be doing that tomorrow for sure. That is a good question. I'm like, I feel like sometimes I'm like way behind on all the gear and the tools and all the synthesizers and all the plugins that are out there, because you guys always ask me about stuff that I've never heard of yet. I need to get on that some more. Sweet. Well, we got a little bit time left in the stream. Anybody else have any questions, things that they want to go over today? The Soundcraft 12FX mixing desk. Oh, just like a little mixy little. So you're running this little mixer. So you're running your audio out of live through this, and then using this to mix. Can you just go USB, it looks like, in and out of this guy? So why use this instead of just like a MIDI controller? Looks cool. Looks like a little tiny mixer guy. Okay, nice. Yeah, it makes sense if you got a bunch of hardware. I feel like this would be really useful for live performance, especially if you're using a lot of hardware, just so you have everything run through here and then just send your audio out. Those kinds of setups are really cool. They're really fun to play around with. Just like, okay, I got my like 3 or 4 synths, got a drum machine all running through one of these guys. I can like control and mix all of them live. So Brian is asking, any tips for thinning MIDI data as loop layers of MIDI gets pretty thick? So I'm assuming you're talking about like you're recording a bunch of MIDI and you're putting it all in one MIDI clip, and then it just gets overly complicated and you're trying to separate it out or something like that. That kind of situation, Brian. Honestly, if it were me, if I was in a situation where I was getting lots of MIDI in one place, I would probably, instead of trying to thin it after the fact, I would probably just set up multiple tracks and then record different layers on different tracks individually. I think that way, if I wanted to mute something, so like, record a loop here, record a loop here, record a loop here, all on separate instruments. And that if I want to mute this one, I can like stop that one. Or if I want to mute this one, I can stop that one. And then I would say I want to bring this one back. I can launch that one. That I think would probably be the best way to just kind of build a process, kind of like start from the ground up of having a workflow where you never get in a situation where you have too much MIDI on one track. You can kind of like spread it out across multiple tracks, and that makes it easier to kind of add things or delete things or get rid of those kinds of things. But if, say, you were in that kind of situation and you wanted to thin that MIDI out, and is this context for when you're on stage or when you're not on stage? Because it makes a difference. Because when you're on stage, you kind of have limited options. Whereas if you're in the studio, let's actually grab MIDI from this track right here. So here is all the MIDI that I'm generating with a sequencer that I have set up. So in a situation like this, if I want to be able to like separate these out and kind of, if you're in live performance, and you're dealing with something like this, that's gonna be kind of tricky. Yeah, and I think probably what I would end up doing is kind of a weird solution. There is the pitch MIDI effect. And let me grab a sound so we can hear this. So these are all the notes. Let me make sure I'm not inputting anything. So one of the cool things that people don't realize about the pitch MIDI effect is there is this range control right here. So the range control will allow you to basically pick out notes or ranges of notes that it'll exclude. So it starts at C-2, which is the lowest note, and it goes up to plus 127 notes, so the entire range of MIDI notes. So if I, for example, wanted to get rid of these notes here, this whole area, when I'm on stage, instead of going in here and deleting them, what I could do is take this lowest note control and turn this up to C3. So now it's excluding anything that's below that range. Actually, I have to go to C4. It's not doing anything yet. It's not the C4. like that. So in this case, it's excluding anything below, in this case, D sharp 4. And if I wanted to go the other direction with it, it's the range from whatever this note is, either above it or just above it, basically. So you could map these both to like a knob on a MIDI controller, and you could use those to exclude notes. It's kind of a weird thing to do, but it would work. And that would be two knobs, a two-knob solution. And that way, like, all this MIDI is still here, but we're only getting notes in the middle or notes at the very top of it, or notes that are low. We could do, like, say we want like 1 octave, starting at C3. So something that would technically work. It's not like a great solution in my opinion, but it works. It'll get the job done. And you could potentially set up a situation where you have like a MIDI effect rack with like different pitch devices and different chains with going to maybe different instruments. So you could have like different notes be sent different places. I don't know. That's kind of a weird question. But I think that this could be a solution you could look into. You could also try using the scale MIDI effect, and that will also allow you to remove certain notes from being played, which we can get into if you'd like, because it's kind of a weird device. So DJ Emo, I mean, you could do exactly what I just did, using the pitch device to exclude certain notes from different ranges, and then just record and enable multiple tracks at the same time. Those notes would still record though first. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, you could EQ filter them, or you could use a MIDI effect to basically remove certain notes. Oh, if you're just looking to pass things that are in the right key, that's 100% what the scale device does. I thought you just had like a large range of notes, and you're like, I just don't want that many notes. I record a bunch of notes, but I only want to hear specific ones out of what I've already recorded. The scale device, probably one of the worst designed in terms of ease of use, in terms of what it does. But this will do exactly what you want it to do. So the way this works is you basically have your incoming note on your x-axis and your outgoing note on your y-axis. So basically, this right here is C. This is C sharp. This is D. This is D sharp. This is E, etc. And if you click on them, it deletes them. So if I want to get rid of this note and make it so that if I accidentally play a C note, it just doesn't play anything. Right now I'm playing a C note and it doesn't play anything because it's receiving a C note and it's not outputting anything. But if I click on this, you can do like that, something like that. If I click on this, it takes this column here, which is our C column, and it's going to pitch it up to be C sharp, or D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, whatever. So it basically allows you to take any incoming MIDI note and either pitch it up or pitch it down, or just not let it through. So if I wanted to play something, for example, in C major, I just always wanted to be in C major, we could take all of the black notes on the piano, so C sharp here, and either get rid of it, like that, so we can get rid of all these notes. Boom, boom, boom. That means if you were to accidentally play one of the black notes on the piano, it would just not play anything, which is probably what you're looking for. You're probably looking just like, okay, if I accidentally play the wrong note, just don't do anything. That's totally fine. Now, because we started with C and we put in this pattern here, this is the pattern for C major. But say you don't want to be in C major. You want to be in D major. We could take this bass control, move it over to D, and you can see the entire grid changes with it. So now, only the notes that are in D major will be passed through. Or what you could do is instead of deleting those notes, it could just round them down. So do something like that. Make sure I got everything like that and like that. And so now, if I play any note that's out of D major, it'll just round it down to be in D major. And say you want to be in the minor scale, you could either put in the pattern for the minor scale, or you could go to just the minor preset. And then once this loads, there will be the pattern for the minor scale. Change your root note. Now everything you play will be in F sharp major, in F sharp minor. Brian, there's not going to be a way, at least off the top of my head, for it to automatically recognize the notes that are played the most and get rid of them. However, if you were like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to perform a song in, D minor, you already have the pattern for the minor scale. Just make sure that it's set to D, and then any note you play will automatically. Yeah, so that way if you do hit a wrong note, it doesn't play nothing, it just rounds it down. And so that'll work. It sounds like this is kind of what you're looking for. It's a little weird to use it first, but just know that there's already built-in major scale preset, and there's already built-in minor scale preset, in addition to a bunch of other presets. So if you want to be like, okay, let's play in Phrygian dominant. Let's play G Phrygian dominant, and then boom. Every single note that I play will automatically be in that key. We'll kind of force it to be in that key. One of the things that I don't recommend is writing something in one key. Like say you wrote something in, C major, and then if you slap this on it and set it to be G Phrygian dominant, technically, yes, it will be in G Phrygian dominant. However, it will probably not sound as good because of the rounding down thing. So it's not good for writing something in one key and then trying to convert it into something else and have it still sound, it might sound okay, but it's not going to sound great. But if you're in a situation like this where you're on stage and you're just jamming out on your, your MIDI guitar, which I think is what you're doing, and the MIDI guitar accidentally picks up a note that it shouldn't have, this will just round it down and keep it in whatever key you want. And so that's kind of what I'd recommend for what I'm understanding as your situation. But the scale device is weird. I have kind of mixed feelings about it. It's very confusing for people. The interesting thing about the scale device is that it helps if you don't know much music theory, but you need to know music theory in order to make it work. So it's like this weird thing where the people who need it the most don't understand how to use it, and the people who know how to use it don't need it anymore. So hopefully this answers some of your problems and works for you, for it sounds like, from what I understand of your setup. Yeah, so Brian, the built-in scale option on the MIDI clip is great, but only if you're plugging in MIDI with your mouse, which it sounds like you're not doing. It sounds like you are playing things with, you're doing things on stage. So you could record a bunch of MIDI here and then see which notes are in key and which notes are out of key, and like click on them and delete them. However, you don't want to be doing that on stage, because that's not something you have like time or energy or focus on to do on stage. Maybe you do, but when I'm on stage, I try to use the mouse as little as possible. So yeah, so you could use the scale device as like an indicator that like, oh, there's a note that shouldn't be there. Like if I were to record here. You could see like, oh, this note and this note are out of key. I can just click on those and delete them, but there's not gonna be like a fast way to do that on stage besides what I just did, which might be okay for you. That might work for you, but also might not. The nice thing about the scale device is like you're locked in. Cool. Well, hopefully that's helpful, Brian. Hopefully that's useful. Chat, I appreciate all of your inputs in all of these matters. Glad to have you guys here. It's going to be about time. Yeah, since my artificial intelligence to do that. I'm sure that exists. I'm sure there's like a plugin or something like that that it can just auto detect and remove notes. Like we have that technology. Yeah, reducing sensitivity if you're getting extra notes in there, it could be another good option. So yeah, so we are reaching the end of the stream. Big thanks to all you guys for showing up and hanging out with me today. No stream this Friday, but yes, stream tomorrow, probably around the same time. I might go longer just because it's going to be a kind of a special occasion stream, so I might be hanging out for a while. Might do a little bit of video synthesis stuff. I'm not really sure what we'll do. We'll figure it out kind of as we go. But hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. If not, I will probably see you next week. I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes just to see if there's any other questions in chat or any other burning things people want to talk about. But I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here, making this all worthwhile. And yeah, work on some music and feed me more questions. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah. GG, I think there is like a 20-second or so delay. Just because if it's less delay than that, then my computer doesn't like it. So most likely you're probably about 15 to 25 seconds behind me, give or take a little bit. Oh, are you talking about a video that I've made on delay? That's a different thing. I don't think I've done anything on delay, at least not recently. Is there anything specific about delays that you want to get into? Because I'm also always looking out for topics for videos. That's like the hardest part about making 2 videos a week is just having topics that I can get into. So if you have questions about delay, I can either talk about it now or I can just make a video just for you. Like right after I answered that question, I was like, wait, are you actually talking about a video on delay? Not the delay of the video of my streaming. Okay, so you want to have so you want to do like a stereo delay where you have the left channel is the original channel and the delay on the right channel. There are lots of ways to do that. There's gonna be like a million ways to do that. Probably one of the easiest ways off the top of my head is going to be the filter delay. So the filter delay is kind of 3 delays in one. We have a stereo delay, which is both your left and right side here, which we can turn on and off individually. We have a left delay here, which has all of its settings right here. And we have a right delay over here, all of which has its settings right here. So if you, for example, wanted your left side to not have delay, we could turn both of these guys off. And now when I play a note, I have in this case, the original signal is in stereo, and then the delay is on one side. So that would kind of work. There's another way that I'll show you in just a second if you want just purely dry signal on the right and purely wet signal on the left. But you also ask about delay times. So when you see a delay timing like this is in 16th notes. So this is 1/16th note, this is an 1/8 note, quarter note, half a bar, bar. But if you want it to be in milliseconds, where it says sync, you can hit the time button here, and then this will be in milliseconds. And this is true for all the delays. Yeah, so if you wanted to have your delay or have the actual signal itself just be on the right side, probably the easiest way to do that is to take your delay right here and put it in a rack. So if you select it and hit Command G or Control G, it puts it inside of a rack. And then hit this button right here. Yeah, so in this situation, we have one chain going to our filter delay, which is on the right side. And then we're going to right click here and we're going to hit Create Chain. We'll just make another chain. So we have chains are right here. This one is going to be our delay chain. This is one of many ways to do this. And this is going to be our dry chain. The dry chain, we're going to pan all the way to the left. So we have a volume control, a panning control, and a mute and a solo. And then over here, now because we only want this to be wet, we can turn on the dry here. And so now, if I play a note, and timing, let's make this like that. So again, that's one of many ways to do it. So dry chain just pans to the left. The wet chain, we could pan to the right here. We don't necessarily need to because it's already panned to the right. And if we want the timing to be in milliseconds, give a lot of feedback. Yeah, you could do that. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it depends on the context of where you're doing it. A lot of times I'll use like filter delays like this one here, where I have my dry signal in the middle, and then I'll have like a left and the right going on, kind of separate from each other. Because the delay time on the left side and the right side can be different. Yeah, no worries, Gigi. That's kind of the whole point of the stream. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do with delays, and there's also a lot of fun things you can do with these racks and kind of using them to split up your signal and send your signal in different places for doing weird panning. Basically, racks do everything. If you have a problem, then racks do it all. All right, let me turn it back to the way you wanted it. So I have this on the right side, this on the left side. I don't even know what's in here. Let's play this one. And we can, again, change the timing in here. Let's go back to our delay. Yeah. Cool. Well, once again, thank you everybody who popped by for today. I will see you guys tomorrow for a stream, or not. If not, I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. Have a good one. Have a good night. Get some rest. Eat some food. Get some sleep. Make some music.